David DeLove, 71, is accused of murdering his stepson Paul Booth 50 years ago. An abusive stepfather carried the chilling secret of a toddler's brutal death with him for almost 50 years before he was finally accused of murder, a court has been told. David DeLove, 71, always maintained that 19-month-old Paul Booth died as the result of an accidental fall from his bed in October 1968. But he is now accused of having swung the boy into a fireplace, causing catastrophic injuries which led to his death. His alleged crime went unreported for decades until Paul's brother Peter, who was just 4 when Paul died, saw a faded photograph of the youngster being held by DeLove on Facebook in 2015. For years, a jury heard, Peter had been haunted by the memory of what he saw through a gap in a door on the night Paul died. He said he saw David DeLove swinging Paul by the ankles and dashing his head against a fireplace. Peter Booth demanded DeLove's family take down the photograph and then told his cousin what he had seen that night 47 years earlier. DeLove is accused of murdering 19-month-old Paul Booth, right, in 1968. The crime was only reported after the youngster's brother saw this photo, left, on Facebook nearly 50 years later. The cousin told the police that Paul's death had actually been a murder and an investigation was put in place. DeLove, who had split from Paul's mother Carol Booth in 1970 and long since left the scene of his alleged crime in Stockton-on-Tees, was arrested at his new home in Great Yarmouth, Norfolk. The pensioner, who had since remarried, was charged with Paul's murder and accused of cruelty. Prosecutor Richard Wright, QC, told Teesside Crown Court, there was and is no doubt as to what medical condition caused the death of Paul Booth. He died because of a severe injury to his brain that had itself been caused by a fractured skull. The real issue then in 1968 as now nearly 50 years later in 2017 is what caused that injury. The terrace house where the alleged murder took place has since been knocked down. The court heard old bruising had also been found on Paul's body and other family members said he had sustained injuries when left alone with DeLove. However, DeLove was not arrested at the time. The case remained closed for nearly 50 years, until March 30, 2015, the court was told. Mr. Wright said, it was on that day that a cousin of Paul Booth contacted the police. She was making the call on behalf of Paul's brother Peter, the little boy who had been almost 4 years old on the night his brother died. The police interviewed Peter as a witness for the first time in 2015. He had not been asked to give any account in 1968. What he told in that interview is what has led us here, 50 years on, to the trial of David DeLove for the murder of his stepson Paul Booth. A local newspaper report still exists of the death of toddler for which a man is now on trial for murder. The boy's brother said he saw the killing in 1968 and came forward after seeing a picture of the alleged murderer on Facebook. Peter told the police that the death of Paul was not the result of an accidental fall out of bed.